Now, the media, they don't care about the Constitution. They only care about the part that says freedom of the press. And they really don't care about freedom of the press because they're not about freedom of the press. They're about having the power to advance their ideology, having the power to advance their agenda. That's what they're about. And they use the protection of the freedom of the press to do so. Nobody's threatening them. Their corporate masters aren't threatening them. President of the United States has taken no actions to threaten them. Congress isn't threatening them. You and I, we're not threatening them. And yet look at them. Bunch of howling buffoons. And buffoons they are. And we're going to get into more of this. You see this MSNBC, it's on the Drudge Report. MSNBC. Their ratings are at an all-time high. Historic high. They've never been higher in the last week. And Drudge likes to put up Rachel Maddow's ratings. Almost 4 million viewers. Wow. This is why MSNBC has taken the tack that it has. This is why MSNBC is lurched hard left. And they have these preposterous hosts, these buffoons, who are not news people, like Katie Tur, among others. Because it's a business. MSNBC is NBC. NBC is Comcast. They get higher ratings, they get more advertisers, and they can charge higher rates. They're not a news operation. They're playing to the hard left Democrat base. That's the niche they've created for themselves. CNN is trying to do the same thing because they figure that's the broader part of the population. They figure wrong, and they've abandoned their original charter as a news operation. It's not really freedom of the press. It's freedom of speech when it comes to these entities because they're not really press. They're a bunch of people on TV talking. That's fine. But that's freedom of speech. They don't really represent an honest press in this country. And they're not defending one. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
So the impeachment of a president is for actions taken while president. I'm not talking about judges. Not talking about other civil officers. Bill Clinton was impeached for actions he took as president of the United States. Perjury, supporting perjury. Recall he lied in front of a federal judge during a civil deposition, and so forth and so on. That's one example. Andrew Johnson, Lincoln's vice president, became president, ascended to the presidency after Lincoln's assassination. It was a bogus impeachment, quite frankly, just like this one would be should it take place, and it'll be as disreputable as what took place to Andrew Johnson. But he was accused of high crimes and misdemeanors based on actions he took or didn't take, more correctly, as President of the United States. And things that took place prior to being President of the United States are not subject to impeachment. They're not subject to impeachment. You could see during the Constitutional Convention, as pointed out by Raoul Berger, who was a brilliant, brilliant man, the debate that took place between George Mason and James Madison and others on what language to use. And, of course, they borrowed from the British and the British Parliament, and they're dealing with the Crown. Mason proposed adding the word maladministration. Madison said, no, that's too vague a term. That would be equivalent to a tenure during the pleasure of the Senate. And high crimes and misdemeanors was accepted in its place. And it was made for the purpose of limiting, not expanding, the initial Mason proposal of maladministration. Can you imagine now going back to something that is alleged prior to the individual as elected president and impeaching him for that? As bogus as it is, these campaign issues, as bogus as it is, the phony obstruction of justice. But can you imagine using these campaign plea deals that go before the president was president of the United States? See, ladies and gentlemen, this is the thing that's made of the old Soviet Union, the third world. The president calls it a witch hunt. It is a witch hunt. And the news, I just told you about the case in 1873 involving the vice president of the United States. My friend Jan LaRue pointed it out to me. It goes back 2.5 years, that Forbes magazine article. But now you can actually study that. Nobody has studied it on any cable channel. None of the lawyers have brought it up. I brought it up. You can't indict a sitting president. None of the lawyers brought it up. None of the cable channels brought it up. I brought it up. President should fight a subpoena all the way up to the Supreme Court. Others said no, he'd have to plead the fifth. He'd have to assert this and that. The professors. I said, no, he doesn't. Now they agree he doesn't. I'm telling you now that what these prosecutors are doing is they're abusing their power. They're using investigative tools, prosecutors, FBI agents, among others, to collect information, to make allegations, to enter into plea agreements that will smear the President of the United States, that will never see the light of day in a federal courtroom, so they cannot be adjudicated, and they will make these allegations and their phony interpretations of campaign laws, among others, put them in a report, send them to the House, and make the allegation as if it's indictment, and then throw it into the political process. This is a first. This is an absolute first. This is what I meant by silent coup. This is an absolute first. It is unprecedented what's being done to Donald Trump. And for conservatives to sit on the edge of their chair and say, well, you know, he lies, he's got this issue, and not only that, and he may have been unfaithful to us. Well, it's unbelievable for me to hear how they refuse to focus on the threats to the republic. That's what I'm all about. That's what my radio show's about, my digital TV's about, my Fox show is about, my writings are about. When I go into the studio, I say to myself, what can we do for liberty today? What can we do for the republic today? What can we do for the Constitution today? We need to defend them.